Well, this August I'll be running my very first marathon, the Edmonton Marathon. Many of the people at my church will know that I've run a number of half marathons, but I've never done a full 42.2 kilometer marathon before. Well, at least I plan to run a full marathon in August. It will definitely depend on one thing, how my training goes between now and then. Training isn't just about getting your cardio fitness up or your leg muscles in proper shape. It's also about learning pacing. If I want to finish strong, I need to learn what pace to run at. If I want to finish at all, I need to learn what pace to run at. See, if I start out too fast, I might fade away too early. But if I start out too slow, well, I won't achieve my time goal and I'll wish I'd started out faster. There's definitely a sweet spot to sustain the right pace for a marathon that is successful. I want to get to my desired pace and I want to stay there. And when it comes to my passion for God, the same thing is true. I want to get there and I want to stay there, not fading away at any point on the run. Well, today we are starting a new series over the next 3 weeks called Getting There and Staying There, How to Not Lose Your Passion for God. And we're going to look at a king named Asa. He was the king of Judah from the years 911 to 870 BC. If you have trouble counting backwards in BC years, like I do, that's 41 years. A reign of 41 years requires some good pacing. And as we will see today, King Asa started out strong. Now let me ask you, how many of you have ever taken the DISC personality assessment before? Here's a breakdown. The D stands for dominance. That's a person who takes charge, solves problems fast, and they drive towards results. They're assertive, they're aggressive, strong-willed, they're bold, they're goal-oriented. The I stands for influence. They bring energy, they connect with people, they inspire enthusiasm. They're sociable, enthusiastic, optimistic. The S is steadiness. They create stability, they're loyal, they're consistent, gentle, caring, empathetic. And the C is conscientious. They pursue accuracy and follow standards. They're analytical, they're reserved, they're logical, detail-oriented. Which one are you? Which one do you think King Asa is? Listen to these opening verses. Asa did what was good and right in the eyes of the Lord his God. He removed the foreign altars and the high places. He smashed the sacred stones and cut down the Asherah poles. He commanded Judah to seek the Lord, the God of their ancestors, and to obey his laws and commands. So which personality best describes Asa? Well, according to these descriptions, he maybe could have been any of them, but the most likely answer is dominance. No sooner was he made king than he was tearing down virtually anything and everything that was ungodly. There's a lot to love about Asa, especially when you contrast him with the kings that came before him. When you read through the long list of kings in Israel's and Judah's history, you don't get a lot to cheer about. Kings that oppressed their people, kings that worshipped false gods, kings that forgot the God of Israel and led the people into ungodly practices. So, whenever we're reading the Old Testament, we come upon a king who tears down idols and leads the nation into godly reform. We can't help but cheer. Finally, someone who actually does what is right in God's eyes. And you know what? We really love his dominance personality here. He doesn't take a poll. He doesn't consult wise men or a council. He doesn't waffle. He doesn't vacillate. No, Asa runs to Home Depot. He rents a chainsaw and gets an excavator and 1,000 pounds of TNT. And he cuts down and digs up and blows up nearly everything that is ungodly in Judah. This nation belongs to God. He formed us. He owns us. He's our God. We're his people. And no consultation is needed. No debate will be had. No discussion will be entertained. You can just hear Asa saying it. Now, you may or may not have a dominance personality like Asa, but you can still be totally successful in pursuing God at a higher level. And what we're going to learn about today in getting there is applicable to everyone. Whether you're dominant Derek, influencing Iris, steady Eddie, or conscientious Carrie. So let's talk about 3 things to get there. These are the 3 things that Asa does that we can do. The first one is tear down what doesn't need to be there. Sometimes people are afraid to get rid of things that are in their lives because they have been there for so long. They have become comforts or security blankets. Other times people are afraid of becoming a statistic, like, you make a resolution to change, but it only lasts for a month. We don't trust ourselves to sustain that initial spark. You know how to be successful at anything. I know how. Remove the thing that keeps you from being successful. It's really difficult to return to something that just isn't there anymore. So get rid of it. On my iPhone, I have social media apps. And if I want to take a break from Instagram, let's say, I have 3 options. And one is to remove the app from my homepage, which I did some time ago. I wanted to spend less time on social media, so I deleted the app from my homepage. However, now what I tend to do is I go to my search bar and I start typing Instagram and it just comes right up. It turns out it's not really all that helpful to remove the icon from my homepage when I know full well I can still easily access it another way. It's kind of like hiding the bag of chips that you don't want to eat. They may not be in plain view, but you know where you can find them anytime you want to, right? But there's a second option. You can delete the app entirely from your phone, meaning you can't just simply access it anymore. And if you want to, you have to download the app again on your phone. This is a good second option. But that's not good enough if you really want to remove what doesn't need to be there. In that case, you need to delete your account entirely. And when you do, you lose everything associated with it. Your history, your memories, your friend list, it's all gone for good. Your followers list will disappear and you cannot get the same username back. Listen, we need to get rid of the junk. Get rid of the clutter. Get rid of anything that is ungodly. Get rid of it completely. Anything that's preventing you from getting close to God. Tear it down and get rid of everything that doesn't need to be there. Everything that is keeping you from honoring God in your life, get rid of it. You know what it is. Delete the account 100% and stop keeping one foot in that thing. Don't just remove the app from your home screen. Delete the account entirely. This is what Asa did when he tore things down. And that's what we need to do. Tear things down. Second is build up what does need to be there. Asa built up the fortified cities of Judah since the land was at peace. No one was at war with him during those years, for the Lord gave him rest. Let us build up these towns, he said to Judah, and put walls around them with towers, gates, and bars. The land is still ours because we have sought the Lord our God. We sought him, and he has given us rest on every side. So they built and prospered. We need to be productive during a time of peace. A time of peace isn't a time to pull back, it's a time of preparation. It's not enough to get rid of the stuff that just shouldn't be there. We need to replace it with what should be there. This spiritual principle is clearly conveyed in Matthew 12, where Jesus said, "When an evil spirit leaves a person, it goes into the desert, seeking rest, but finding none. Then it says, I will return to the person I came from. So it returns and finds its former home empty, swept, and in order. Then the spirit finds 7 other spirits more evil than itself, and they all enter the person and live there. And so that person is worse off than before." We need to do what Asa did. Build up our defenses so when the enemy comes back, we are well prepared. That means if you have gotten rid of addictions in your life, you need to make sure that you do everything you can to prevent yourself from returning to them again. Because we know that temptation will seek an opportune moment when you're weak, when you're tired, when you're discouraged, or even when you're so busy. So what do? You find good habits to adopt. You find new groups to be part of. And most of all, you have accountability that you're honest, you're transparent with. It's not knowledge that separates us from success. It's fear. We know what to do. We just need to do it. And this goes with any behavior or attitude or action that we need to prevent from successfully attacking us again. And this is where at Richfield we have life groups available, or the Genesis process, or Pathway to Purpose. Get your heart and your mind in the right place and fortify yourselves while there is peace in your life. Okay, number 3, when peace is tested, seek God. Asa had an army of 300,000 men from Judah, equipped with large shields and with spears, and 280,000 from Benjamin, armed with small shields and with bows. All these were brave fighting men. Well, these were large numbers, but larger numbers would come against him. Be careful if you think you're standing firm, like, I've got this, I've got enough money, I've got my health, I have enough resources to withstand anything that life throws my way. Listen, there's always something that can invade your life unexpectedly and knock you flat on your back. And for Asa, it was the Cushite army. Let's read this. Zerah the Cushite marched out against them with an army of thousands upon thousands and 300 chariots, and came as far as Mareshah. Asa went out to meet him, and they took up battle positions in the valley of Zaphathah near Mareshah. Some commentators estimate that Zerah's army may have been as much as 1,000,000 warriors, almost double Asa's army. So what do you do when that happens? When the odds are against you, when what you thought was more than enough turns out to be only about half of what you need? You do what Asa did. Then Asa called to the Lord his God and said, Lord, there is no one like you to help the powerless against the mighty. Help us, Lord our God, for we rely on you, and in your name we have come against this vast army. Lord, you are our God. Do not let mere mortals prevail against you. Okay, sometimes the Bible doesn't give us specifics on what we should do, and other times it states what we should do very clearly. And this is one of those times where it says what we should do and how we should do it. Now, I don't want to reduce this prayer to a vending machine prayer, like you put in your request and whoop, out pops the answer. And yet there is a template here that when prayed with sincerity and with faith, that God hears and he answers. So, with the odds stacked so heavily against him, Asa doesn't scramble. He doesn't make an alliance with a foreign nation. One might argue that with such a lopsided conflict, Asa had no choice but to appeal to God. And one might argue that neither do we. So they meet in the valley. This battle would take place in a valley. Battles never occurred on mountaintops. They always occurred in valleys. Our battles always take place in the valleys, don't they? Those low moments of our lives is when the enemy comes in and starts to attack us. Are you in a valley right now? Are you in a difficult season, a struggle? What Asa does is a prayer, but it's more than a prayer. It's an invocation of the God of Israel, who is the God of the universe, to enter into the valley with Asa and help. Asa doesn't tell God how he should fight this battle. You know, if you could come around the west flank and rout their chariots, that would probably put fear into the foot soldiers and so on. We love to pray and tell God how it needs to go down, as though he is stumped. He has no idea. He has no idea how to solve this incredible, once in a history of the world, unique only to you problem. God can't do it, so we tell him how. Well, Asa doesn't tell God how it needed to happen, how God should solve the problem, no details. Which I think is a thing of beauty, because his prayer is a prayer that anyone can pray. It's not deep, it's not complicated, it's not long, but it is fueled by faith. And it's all God needed to hear in order to respond in power. So, here is how he prayed that teaches us how we should pray. First is acknowledge God's greatness. He says, there's no one like you. This isn't just about God's strength. It's also about his compassion. Who better to help us in our time of need than someone who is not only able, but is willing? The second thing is acknowledge your weakness. Asa says we're powerless. God knows we are weak, but he wants us to know we are weak. And he responds one way to arrogance, but he responds another way to humility. 1 Peter 5 says, so humble yourselves under the mighty power of God, and at the right time he will lift you up in honor. Thirdly, declare your dependence. Asa said, we rely on you. In your name we have come against this vast army. Vast. He uses this word vast. Some people might feel like that's a lack of faith to say something like that. But acknowledging the problem for what it is important. In other words, Asa admitted there was a problem bigger than he could handle on his own. Had he thought he could have handled it on his own, he would have attempted to do just that. But God sends a problem too big for man to handle in order to test what that man is made of. And who will he rely on? And when he says, in your name, it speaks to the obligation that Asa felt was on God because the name of God had been invoked. So he was calling on God to honor his own name, which is the fourth one. Seek God's renown. Don't let mere mortals prevail against you, he says. What does it say when the world wins against God? Asa wasn't the first to pray in such a way that asked God to preserve and protect his great name and reputation. A defeat could make the God of Israel look like the fake gods of wood and stone that the surrounding nations worshipped. So he says, do not let mere mortals prevail against you. First, he calls this army powerful, and then he calls them vast. Now they are just mere mortals. You know, by the end of your prayer, your problems will become smaller too. Listen. Verses 12 and following are the result of the prayer. Not just the words themselves, but the faith and humility behind them. Let's read them. The Lord struck down the Cushites before Asa and Judah. The Cushites fled, and Asa and his army pursued them as far as Gerar. Such a great number of Cushites fell that they could not recover. They were crushed before the Lord and his forces. The men of Judah carried off a large amount of plunder. They destroyed all the villages around Gerar, for the terror of the Lord had fallen on them. They looted all these villages, since there was much plunder there. They also attacked the camps of the herders and carried off droves of sheep and goats and camels. And then they returned to Jerusalem. This is what victory looked like. The Lord led the battle. He was put first, so he responded first. Getting there means understanding where the finish line is and setting a sustainable pace, to arrive strong. Listen, if you have faded, if you have waned, if you have run out of steam, today is your day to come back. If the prodigal son tells us anything, the Father is willing to run to you with open arms. So I want to encourage you. Put God first. Trust in him. When you're praying to him, acknowledge his greatness and your weakness, and declare that he is able to help you because he wants to. God loves you so much. He's so passionate about you. And I wonder if you'd be willing to trust in him today by calling on him, humbling yourself before him, and just saying, God, I need you. Would you put your trust in him today? And if you've never given your heart to the Lord, would you just say this prayer with me? Dear Jesus, I ask you to come into my life and forgive my sins. I believe that you died for me, and I believe that you rose again. You're alive today. And I need you to come into my life and be my Lord and be my Savior. And if you pray that prayer, he is faithful to do it. And I would love to hear from you. Would you email us at office@richfieldchurch.ca? if you prayed that prayer. We want to give you next steps in following Christ. And we'd also love to hear your testimonies or hear your prayer requests. So please reach out to us today for anything that we can help you with. We are here for you. I pray that you're blessed today. Join us next week when we continue part 2 through Asa's rise and fall, 2 Chronicles chapter 15. Join us then. May God bless you and your family today. Amen.